Thanks for bringing me back to the farm. What a beautiful place we're at. Look at where we're at. Thank you for bringing me back to Memorial Auditorium. Stanford is where it all started for me as well. I remember coming back to Stanford and going to Sweet Hall back when that was still here, and I was employee number 10 at Palantir. And I did get to design the logo, which was fun. And one of the funniest stories I remember is we were only 10 people, but we bought maybe like 40 pizzas, because it was like 11 o'clock at Sweet Hall, where everyone who was a coder was there, working on their CS140 project or whatever it was. And we printed out like the Palantir logo, and it said, join the next Google. And we were like 10 people, we're 10 people in that company, and nobody had heard of us. And people were eating our pizza, looking at the pizza box and being like, who are these guys? Like, where did they get off? Which is very, very funny to think about, because now it's actually a $400 billion company. I mean, I didn't check recently, but it's pretty wild. Like, this is sort of the stuff that we get to do. And you guys are the next generation. I'm beyond psyched that you guys are here, and that actually things are very different today than before. I have to confess, I'm very, very sleep deprived. I've probably slept only like 4 hours a night for about 21 days, which is really crazy because I spent 10 years after my startup in 2008 really not coding at all. And in basically the last 21 days, I just launched yesterday, 2 days ago, Gary'sList.org, and it's 150,000 lines of code. About 35% is actually test. Like, the quality on the code is better than what I did for my entire startup. The startup took $5 million, and it took 2 years of my life, and it took 10 engineers to build something that was not even, 60% as good as what I made in my nights and weekends while I have a full-time job at OIC. So we're in like a totally different moment. Like, I was able to do the work of literally like who here saw the Steve Yecke article about coding today? He compared an Anthropic engineer to 1,000x that of a Google engineer at its peak. And so something happened at the end of November. It totally blew our minds. And then now, basically half the world, I think, is losing their minds coding. And everything has changed. Money is no longer the limitation. Code is no longer the limitation. And the only limitation left is actually your ability to step outside of yourself and your needs. I need to start a startup. I need to create a business. I need to create a product. That's your need. But can you sit across from someone who has a problem that isn't your problem? And can you reside in their shoes? Can you understand intimately what's going on? And to feel what it's like to be them? And then to feel in their heart of hearts, what is it that they truly need? What do they truly desire? When you get into Y Combinator, you get a t-shirt on the first day. It says, make something people want. And the make something part got 1,000 times easier. We think of the world as sort of, the world of software can be built by about 20 million people on the planet. That's like a vanishingly small number of people in the world. But that number is not 20 million now. I think that number is 100 million. And it's going to be billions in the future. And so that changes everything. What really matters is actually, can you sit across from someone? Can you make something that they really, really want? So that's really the challenge to the room. Like, at YC, we get to see all of these incredible founders, and they're just like you. I was just like you. I was sitting in this crowd, just like you. I remember getting rejected from the Bases E Challenge when I was a freshman. Do you know who my co-founder was for my startup, my freshman year at Stanford? It was Stephen Cohen. and he went on to co-found Palantir. So I guess that's my challenge to you in this room. You have 36 hours, and you have tools that can make absolutely anything. And those tools are actually the same tools that anyone on the planet has access to. So the really important thing to do for you, for everyone in this room that's very, very different, is now, what is it that exists that does not exist in the world that should? You know, I know a lot of you guys are really worried about the future, and honestly, I'm really worried about the future too. What does this mean? What does it mean that, like, being a software engineer, it's suddenly become far more fungible? And then what I think that means for us in this room is actually that, like, we can't just be about the tech. We can't just be about the code. Truly and deeply, we actually have to go out into the world and confront other people and what are their problems. And if you can do that, there's infinity amount of work to be done. I think there's a lot of you in this room will go on to actually build all of those startups. And even if you don't build a startup, you will become the people who actually build this entire society moving forward. And that's, you know, it's hard to believe, actually. I mean, I look at my old buddy Bob McGrew. We were Phi-Size here at Stanford together, and I knew he was one of the most brilliant people I'd ever met in college. But he was just Bob down the hall, and it's hard to believe. Like, he went on to be, you know, CRO at Chief Research Officer at OpenAI. All of you in this room have an incredible obligation to society to actually raise the bar. So one of the things about all this technology that's happening right now is that left to your own devices, we could fall to zero-sum thinking. In fact, some of your professors might feel that way. You might be at internships. You might have lead engineers who you work with. They're really worried. And, you know, to be frank, like, the business community, they're looking out there and they're saying, well, gosh, like, do I need all these people? And to that I say, we need to boil the ocean. I think that's when you go out from work, that's one of the first things that you start hearing. You hear these crazy idioms like, oh, well, we could do X, Y, and Z, but we probably shouldn't because it's boiling the ocean. Like, it's just this canonical business, like, thing that people say, like, you shouldn't do it. And I say, boil the ocean. We should boil the ocean. That is actually what we need to do. Suddenly we have a tool that is it brings in the age of intelligence. You can create anything. You know, I have friends who run companies worth billions of dollars, and about a third of them are also sleeping about 4 hours every night. And they're pushing their teams, and they're not firing people. They're telling the whole team, we need to boil the ocean. We need to do more. Can you imagine if we approached every single thing that we did in society with that? Clean energy, personalized medicine, every single thing that could be solved by technology, should be solved by technology, because suddenly intelligence is too cheap to meter. And that's our job. Like, who else? Look around you. Look to your left and look to your right. Who else in society is supposed to bring this magic to the world except the smartest people right here in Treehacks? And so Treehacks is not just a 36-hour, it's not just a hackathon. It is actually the proving ground for us to go build the future. And so you need to increase your ambition. Let's boil the ocean. And in 36 hours, maybe you can't boil an ocean, but you could probably boil a lake or two. So, the world's changed. A lot of you are addicted, so am I. But that addiction, the only one that really matters, is your addiction to understanding other people and making something people want. That's the only mode left. Go kill it.